And it came to pass in a land called America, in a district called Columbia, that a group of donkeys hatched a scheme at eveningtide, deciding to impose the biggest burdens ever to date upon the backs of the hard-working elephants, who bore a variation of the name of their beloved republic. After all, in the past, socking it to those fat cat elephants worked with very little problem. After all, they were so easily manipulated into feeling guilty for being so big and strong. But this time it was different, when the rogue pack of donkeys attempted to convince the Republic's elephants to add more weight to their already heavy burdens. It was to no avail. This time the elephants spoke in unison and thundered out a new mantra. Donkey kicked me once, donkey's fault. Donkey kicked me twice, elephant's fault. Those united elephants realized they already paid as much tribute as physically possible, and they'd sooner leave the land than to continue supporting those who didn't want to work. So the previously cowardly elected elephant representatives of the Republic finally stood up to their donkey taskmasters, no longer cowering in fear, and told them something they hadn't heard before. They uttered a single two-letter word that proved to be more powerful than any other of the longer words in their language. It was the word no. And they refused to budge. For this time, there would be no compromise. Their answer was met with a howling donkey squeal, loud enough to pierce the ears of everyone in Columbia, as well as reverberating across the land of America. And then the unthinkable happened. New decrees were passed, saying if anyone refused to work, they would be refused food. Overnight, welfare lines shut down and prior recipients actually had to go to work for the very people they so hated and demonized, those capitalist elephants of the Republic. After several months of working for their adversaries, some of those donkeys finally wised up and said, "We want to start our own businesses so we don't have to work for others. We no longer are happy to be mere beasts of burden. We want to keep the money we make from the sweat of our hoofs." And they became business owners and nursed a new affinity for elephants and a newly acquired distaste for donkey dung. Well, as more of those hard-working former donkeys opened their own cottage businesses, they thrived and the economy of the land boomed. And when their former donkey peers came along for a free lunch, they'd toss them a harness and hook them up to a plow and said, "Work hard, and at the end of the day, you will get your pay." Finally, there was no more unemployment in the land. Most of the government workers in Columbia left government pastures and found jobs in private sector fields, since 90% of government jobs were gone because there were no more inefficient, bloated welfare programs to oversee. And the economy in the land called America reached record heights, and a consortium of trading posts known as the Dow surged past 30,000, and there was abundance for all. But when there were people who were in true need of help, including the elderly, the blind, and the crippled, there was no shortage of private charities to help them, since there was such little regulation and low taxes, and there was plenty of money left over to help others, not because they had to, but because they chose to. But then along came a silver-tongued orator who reared his ugly head and stood up on a soapbox, waxing eloquently about how certain subgroups should feel disenfranchised, tempting others to fall for his bait, saying such things as, "It is your birthright to stop working and live off the work of the hands of others." But as a crowd began to form around the silver-talking devil of a donkey, being seduced by the lure of laziness and entitlement mentality, a hard-working former donkey walked up to the speaker and asked him to politely shut his donkey pie hole and step down. But he refused to be silenced, saying he had a right to talk for others. With that, the former donkey simply cold-cocked the orator squarely in the face. After a moment of silence, the crowd snapped out of it, dispersed, realizing they never again wanted to be enslaved by sweet-sounding but bankrupt schemes. For that was the day that welfare died, when the inhabitants of the land of America rejoiced and lived happily ever after, working and feeling good about working, enjoying the fruit of their labors without anyone there to take it away.